All right, it looks like we're finally live. All right, what do we have going on here? There's a chat. It's showing a stream. I'm seeing myself on YouTube. Hopefully you can hear me now. Let's see what we have here. Can any of you out there hear me, or am I still censored? Anyone? Okay, there we go. Waiting for Destiny. How are you? I see a chat. That's crazy. I haven't seen that in a long time. Okay. Let's see here. Trying to connect these here. All right, we have the audio fixed. Oh, hey, Maria. Let's see. Audio should be fixed. Got the microphone working again. Hey, Cheryl. All right. Looks like we're live here. So hopefully we have enough bandwidth here. Hopefully they won't kick us off. Good. We're showing a live stream, and we can hear. All right. Well, then I can take this off because I don't need to hear myself. Okay. We now have sound. We are back. Welcome to the Rice Report. I'll give everybody a few minutes to settle in here. This has been a long and arduous journey here through this entire process here. Folks, I've been suspended for a couple of weeks and debated on this. Just to be full transparency, so everyone should know. I mean, transparency should be the model of the world. And in full transparency, YouTube asked me for a government-issued ID in order to get my account back to go live. I will not do that. I think it's only fair if you want a government ID from me that you should take a government ID from every single content creator on YouTube because the content that I watch on here is mostly meaningless and filled with a lot of mainstream media rubbish. So if I'm on here, there's 8 people watching. We're getting rebooted here. Got to restart the entire thing all over again. So we are here live, thankfully. Brian, thank you. LC, great to see you again. We are back here. I'm going to try to get this thing connected to Rumble tomorrow. I'm having a lot of Rumble issues. It looks like, let me check that right now. It defaults on all of my lives on Rumble to private. And I don't know why that is, so I need to make them public, but it's not even showing that the stream is connected. So I'm going to roll with it here tonight just to try to get this here. I'm already 36 minutes behind my own schedule. I've got dinner waiting downstairs and a family who hasn't seen me all day from work. So we are going to go ahead and get started here no matter who is on the stream. Timmy, what's up, man? Good to see you. I can see the chat. This is the first time that I have seen the chat in well over a month and a half. They started, that's how it starts. You can't see the chat, so it gets filled with a bunch of bots that talk a lot of crap about you. And that's kind of the beholdenness you have to YouTube and centralized forces. I think we should all be very weary of such centralized control in our world. So we are going to get started here. Again, my apologies for all this stuff here. Just trying to serve my time in YouTube jail, and apparently I've got some connection issues with Rumble, but that's okay. We'll download this live and put it on Rumble for you tomorrow if you are just completely against YouTube, which I totally understand. We have a few videos. All right, well, let's get started here, guys. I've got to get to dinner and get back to work, see the family and all that good stuff. So welcome back to the Rice Report. My name is Eric Rice. Thank you so much for being here. It has been 3 weeks since we have been on air. We just got into a rhythm of 3 or 4 of these episodes per week and a bunch of great interviews with guys like Dinesh D'Souza and Ann Vandersteel. I was just on Ann Vandersteel's show yesterday. If you want to check that out over on her sites. She is all over the place. She's an actual journalist. I'm just a guy in a hoodie. I'm actually wearing the same jacket from that yesterday. So I'm just a normal guy here trying to help as best I can. But it is really good to see you all here this evening. Good to have my voice reinstated in the world. It is interesting watching this stuff go along. because through this process here, my mother-in-law, who I love dearly, she's just incredible, and we're really glad to have her here. The kids love having her here, and it's just nice to see. But she has gotten a chance to watch this, and is definitely a left voter, a Harris voter. I don't know who she voted for. I just assume that. I don't really ask people. It's none of my business. But it has been interesting to watch her eyes open by seeing her own son-in-law, who she's known for 25 years, and watching me get censored here on YouTube kind of opened her eyes. So this journey that we go on to be able to share the truth with other people is ongoing. This is not a battle that is over now. It is not a battle that will be over anytime soon, in my estimation. I know that we rest in the throes of a victory from an election. By the way, election night was my last live broadcast, the last time I was allowed to go on. And I think that since then, these last 3 weeks, we've seen just tremendous amounts of optimism in America. And Americans are on point. We are ready to go and make changes in this country. And it's such a cool thing to see. It's so exciting to watch everybody get into that zone of realizing, hey, we can pull something off. We can do it. But I think that we are in this position right now where we should be proceeding with extreme caution. You know, we have won an election. We still have to be inaugurated. We still have to be put in office. Trump has to be there. We have a lot of cabinet picks that are coming out that are confusing to a lot of people. There's a ton of misinformation going out there. I'll address the cabinet picks very vaguely a little bit later. There are a lot of other podcasters who do just a brilliant job on politics and following legislation and laws. That is really not my cup of tea. I really watch the money. I watch society. I watch wars. Take a look at things that will affect the economy here. That is really kind of my main role in this whole thing, is to explain the economics of the world in as simple a fashion as I possibly can, because that is the hardest part, is understanding financial education is something that we've thrown out the window in America. You know, when I was a financial advisor in Chicago, I used to go to high schools all throughout the city and do just 1 hour lunch and learns with kids and teach them how to manage checkbooks and explain to them what a stock is and how bonds work and these types of things. And I was really the only one doing it. So what I try to do on the educational side is take the news from around the entire market. I try to make it as simple as I possibly can, give my 2 cents on it, where I think things are going. And of course, your 2 cents are all that matter with your money. But I do cover money, politics, and religion. So I still will always look at it from that perspective. I will always look at life from what are the markets doing? What are they telling us? Because money is such an important part of living. You must have money to live. That is still, that's still a real thing. And if you've gone to the grocery store lately, it's a very real thing. So we're going to cover that today. I'm going to get a little bit into politics, a little bit about what I'm seeing on the religious side of things, some good and some bad around the world. I just want to watch God move throughout the world. I want to watch God move in your life. I want to feel God move in my life. And in order to do that, it's very simple. In the Bible, it simply says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. So the entire role I have here, I'm not a journalist. I work a full-time job, I run a company, I've got kids, I have a ministry, I do all these other things. This is a free service. I don't want any money for it. I don't want anything except sharing. I'm going to do my very best to share as much truth as humanly possible. The more I do that, the more I seem to get pushback from YouTube. I'm thankful that we're back on here today. So I will say something nice about YouTube. Thank you. I will not give you my government ID, but they did have me do a facial recognition scan. So if nothing else, if YouTube hates me, they will start making some deep fake videos about me. But I'm such a small fish in such a huge pond. I don't even know why they censored me. We only have a very small channel here. A lot of great people, really, really good people involved in this. So let's get started today. So we're going to look at the markets. I always start with government funding. I'm getting back in the rhythm, so I'm sure you're getting back in the rhythm. This has been quite some time since we've done this. We are now over $36 trillion in debt as a country right now. This is very interesting to look at. We talk about government debt all the time. None of us have really felt the backlash except with inflation. We of course feel that every single day. I just went to the grocery store, got basically 2 big bags of groceries for $176. So I'm certainly feeling that. But I think it's important to note that a lot of these mechanics when it comes to national debt, especially from America, from our perspective, where we are still the world's reserve currency, it will take some time for that to unravel if that is going to be God's plan for us. Our instruments of monetary policy, our U.S. dollar, more importantly, our U.S. Treasury, is still the largest holding of pretty much every major nation in the world. So I know a lot of people online like to scare you. The dollar's going to crash tomorrow and America's going to be overrun by China. These things just logistically aren't true. There's many, many different things that need to happen. And of course, that could happen, and they're trying to make it happen. But as Billy the Kid said in Young Guns, there are many a slip between a cup and a lip. There's a lot of things that can happen between now and then, and that's the same with everything. But I look at it from this standpoint. So here's why government debt is very confusing. So while the U.S. is now $36 trillion in debt, which is a number that has never been seen in debt ever in the world by one borrower, right? So the United States is one borrower of $36 trillion, and that's rolling at almost 5% interest. This is a massive amount of money. Now, our dollar is increasing in value. The DXY has been well over 100 for a very long time right now. And contradictory to this, you're looking at Russia. The ruble is down 15% year to date to the dollar, despite the fact that they have one of the lowest debt to GDP ratios in the world. So this is a very large economy. It's top 10 economy in the world. They have such low debt to GDP, meaning just like if you were in your home, say you owe $100,000 in debt and you make $100,000, you're at zero, right? If you owe $200,000 and you're at $100,000 in income, you're 2-to-1 ratio of debt to income. So GDP is just income of a nation, and currently our nation is 140% behind the curve. We owe far more than we actually earn as a nation. And along this pathway, Russia, who has seen increases in GDP, global revenue, export of oil, so they're still exporting oil all around the world in the ruble, the rupee, and the yuan. These are being done all over the world. Many transactions are occurring right now. They're building their own infrastructure, but yet somehow the ruble, with a country with far better financial statistics, is down 15% and 70% over the past few years to the US dollar. So the reason I'm mentioning this correlation is that sometimes people just simply can't explain things. And no one can explain to me why our debt to income ratio is so much higher than another nation, yet our dollar is thriving. And I have an explanation for this. All of this stuff is rigged, okay? Everything in the marketplace right now that we're watching is completely rigged. It makes no sense. We are over 44, approaching 45,000 on the Dow. We're over 6,000 on the S&P 500. This correlates with a shrinking GDP. The only reason our GDP even had value at all, the last GDP report before the election, is because of our international trades. And those international trades are primarily, as I assumed, a bunch of military equipment that we're giving to foreign nations and having to pay to replenish here. So the defense sector is thriving off of our tax dollars, and pretty much the entire rest of the market is completely overvalued. And I'm going to get into the stock market heavily in this episode because I think it's important to understand, because most people think of the economy as the stock market. Now, I'm going to get to this in just a minute, but this is really the most concerning area as we approach Christmas time, where people want to be with families, and the number one time of the year where people spend money. I think it's important to understand what's going on with money to be able to budget properly through this Christmas season. But $36 trillion our banks now sit, and this is a low estimate because this only takes into account 8 of the largest banks in the country. Our largest 8 banks in this country have a total of $515 billion in unrealized losses. Now, if you pool in the other ones, I've seen other estimates of $798 billion in unrealized losses. An unrealized loss, I've explained a few times, is a loss you haven't realized. So it's a loss that's out there that hasn't actually cost you anything. So say you lost $10,000 at the blackjack table, but your wife doesn't know. That's pretty much what an unrealized loss is. And the wife is you, and the wife is the shareholder. And this is a really big problem in this country, and it's evidenced by some of the contrarian investors. Now, I want to bring the word contrarian to your mind right now, because a contrarian mind is one that thrives in times of chaos. Warren Buffett, for whatever you want to take Warren Buffett for, he has made a complete living, a fortune. Now, of course, he knows a lot of people and he gets a lot of funding from everyone, but he has made a fortune in his career by being a contrarian. A contrarian runs to where everyone else runs from. Now, contrarian investing works or doesn't work based on how good you are at it, just like any other style of investing. But Warren Buffett, being a contrarian, has pulled $325 billion in cash, primarily out of Bank of America. Now, this is something people have talked about, but the alarm bell hasn't sounded yet. For some reason, Bank of America has not felt this pressure on their stock price yet, and there's a very good reason for that, and I'm going to explain that in just a few moments. Now, our treasury auctions are still struggling massively. We are having a difficult time selling treasuries. The new pool for selling our debt is going to be absolutely 100% the stablecoin market. So you're going to watch a lot of stablecoin legislation come through. Stablecoins are going to be a big business moving forward, and for really only one reason. They buy U.S. treasuries. So while all the BRICS nations are not buying U.S. treasuries, Stablecoins will be. So this is a way of rigging the system. If you want to know how systems are rigged, this is how it's rigged. Pass legislation, make stablecoins a normal thing, allow them to continue to buy your debt and to continue to allow a dying currency to continue to thrive. This is what we're watching in the economic point of view. And there's really no argument. I mean, I'm an economist. I'm a backyard economist. Now, I talk to real economists who have economic degrees. They went to Ivy League schools. And they debate with big words and traditional models, and all of those traditional models are broken. Every single one of those models is broken. It's time for a new paradigm of economic viewpoint. We need to be able to look at things in a different way. We're so used to, as a nation, having our currency be the world reserve currency. We're so used to other nations dying, hand over fist spending money on our debt. That's not happening anymore. And what we're doing with the new Trump administration, I assume, we have no idea what he's actually going to do. But what we're hearing is the stablecoin markets will buy the debt. And that's a good thing, right? So a lot of people are saying, I can't wait for the dollar to crash. I don't know if you've seen the movie Mad Max, but if the dollar went to zero, we would be killing each other for water. So don't cheer for that. It's a ridiculous claim to make. Number one, it's very difficult for the world reserve currency to crash. We could certainly take a 30 to 35% hit on the dollar, and that would be borderline Mad Max with America. Americans don't know how to hunt for their own food, grow their own food, cook for themselves. These are really big problems that we would see. Now, auctions, these things are important. We're still selling bonds from October right now. So we're November 26th today, right now, live, November 26th. We are still selling bonds from October. Our yields are up in the 4% for our bonds. So everything's a triple beam. Where I get in the camera here. So every time the price goes up, the yield goes down. When the yield goes up, it means the price of a bond is going down. This means the value or the demand for our bonds or our debt is dropping every day, raising the interest rates, which is why you're seeing interest rates being cut by the Fed, but yet the interest rates on mortgages still climbing. This is a big thing to note. Most people don't know how this works. So take that with you in Thanksgiving and explain just simply, here's how bonds work. If the yield goes up, the price goes down. And if the price of bonds is actually going down and the yield is going up, most mortgages are based off of the Treasury. So these are having a big impact on new homeowners. Although the weird thing is we have terrible housing stats right now. But if you look, I'm in Texas, and I had people on my chat today from all over the country saying, people are still buying houses. That's true. It's not necessarily the nicer areas or the newer areas. There's really never a problem moving homes there. It's existing homes in difficult areas. So a lot of these things could be happening out there, and we certainly all need to pay attention to it. Now, some of the things I'm going to look at, speaking of bonds, is the corporate bond market. In the corporate bond market, our corporate bonds are the lowest they've been in 26 years. When you start hitting economic indicators from 20 years ago, 26 years ago, 2008, 2000, 1987, 1929. These are symbols to look at. These are signs that are being given to you. The S&P 500 right now is the fourth highest price to earnings ratio. And someone asked me what a PE ratio means. It's the price of a stock against the earnings of the company. So the higher the price of the stock and the lower the actual income, you're looking at how something gets overvalued. So a PE ratio just indicates how much of a premium you're paying for a stock based on their earnings, not their sales, but their earnings. So the PE ratio for American companies right now is the highest it's been in 126 years. And here's a good rundown. The price to earnings ratio, totally different than price to sales, but price to earnings ratio. Tesla is 94, it has a 94 PE, meaning you're paying 94 times the value to buy the stock than they actually produce in income, in earnings. So Tesla, 94, Nvidia, 54, Netflix, 50, Amazon, 44, Apple, 39, Microsoft, 35. The S&P 500, the whole index of S&P 500 is 29 times earnings. You're paying 20, put it this way, when you buy a dry cleaner, so say you, and I love the dry cleaner business. I can't wait to buy one when they go on sale. When you go to buy something like a dry cleaner, so you'll go to the dry cleaner and you say, hey, I want to buy your business. He shows you his books and he's like, hey, I make $1 million a year with this dry cleaning business. Fantastic. In a dry cleaner, I'm going to pay $2 million. I'm going to pay 2 times the annual earnings to buy the company. I hope you're following along. Now, some other industries like real estate has like 3.5x, 4x. This is the private market. So if I wanted to buy like a technology company with monthly subscriptions and lots of users, I would look at it and say, wow, you guys do 10 million a year, so the valuation of your company is going to be 80 million, 8x, 8 times the earnings. And these are good deals. Like that's why people buy car washes and they buy dry cleaners, because you're paying 2, maybe 3 years of full earnings in advance so that the owner has a profit when they leave and you have a profitable business and a good partner. That's the private market. The public market is Tesla at 94x. Google 22x, Meta 27x, the entire S&P 500 29x. This is the most overvalued market in 126 years. Most of the money in the world, Europe right now, the money from the European stock markets is flooding into the United States. So I want you to follow along with this pathway. Keep that in mind. Money from Europe is flooding into the United States stock market in its most overvalued state in a really, really long time, over a century. Right now, tech stocks are outperforming the S&P 500. That means people are willing to take on more risk. Your S&P 500 companies, these are your standard companies that have been around for a long time. They're the pinnacle, the premium, and the 100 even more. Tech stocks are generally thought of as volatile and risky. Volatile, risky stocks are outperforming the S&P 500, tech stocks in particular. U.S. stocks account for 49% of the global market cap. You don't know what that means? Let me explain it. The total valuation of all the publicly traded stocks in the United States make up 49% of the entire globe stock market value. Are you starting to see what's happening? This overinflation, this gigantic bubble that's building. You have massive price to earning, massive price to sales. Price to sales are generally lower. These aren't earnings. These aren't estimated earnings. These are your actual sales. Nvidia is 30x to sales. Microsoft 13, Tesla 12. Netflix 10, S&P 500 3.1. So these aren't total earnings. Earnings includes your existing and potential revenue. This is your actual sales. So people are paying that much of a premium for U.S. companies, meaning that other markets around the globe are already suffering like we're going to eventually, and they're flooding to the American stock market as a flight to quality. Is this a good idea? In my opinion, absolutely not. I think that the stock market has been set to crash for over 3 years. I think it's getting overly abundant right now that people can see this, and it doesn't seem to matter. Irrational exuberance is a term that we used in the year 2000 for the dot-com bubble. And right now, with our stocks accumulating or being worth 49% of the entire world's publicly traded valuation is in the U.S. stock market. The last time that happened was 2000 during the dot-com bubble. Now, retail traders, they don't seem to care. Retail traders are like you and I. They're that guy down the street that's always in his pajamas. And when you come across him at a Christmas party, you're like, hey, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a day trader. He's a retail trader. Retail traders right now are not concerned about a stock market crash. In fact, the most recent poll came in, the numbers were overwhelming that retail stock traders have almost no fear of a stock market crash. The last time the sentiment was this way was 2006. So we are now at 2006 comfort level for retail traders. Industrial traders, institutional traders, on the other hand, have a big fear. And that's where the problem lies. The information sharing between the two just doesn't exist. Now, Apple, Nvidia, Google, and Meta have just bought back $63 billion of their own stock. In fact, there has been the largest corporate buyback environment over the past 12 months than we have ever seen. In fact, 35% of all market action is coming from corporate buybacks. 52% of that is from the S&P 500. A normal year would be around 45%. So what's propping up the stock market? Foolish, irrational traders looking to make a quick buck. By the way, when people start to gamble and they go to tech stocks and day trading and they have no fear, these are really bad signs of an economy, because people in the actual economy realize that they have to gamble to make a living. So we are in gambler's paradise right now, and this is evident really kind of in the crypto market. I'm going to go through pump fun in just a minute. Many of you don't know what that means. I hope you never do. It's a really crazy thing. But corporate buybacks right now. So corporations have spent just 4 corporations spent $63 billion buying their own stock on the stock market. So I'll give you an example. When I was a publicly traded CEO, I bought like 32 shares of my own company, which was like 50 cents or something. It was a really small amount. No intention of selling it. I just bought it on my own outside of my own. I wanted to eat my own dog food. I did it 3 or 4 times and my account was shut down because it said that I was insider trading or something. Now, these large corporations go through brokerages, and they are buying directly from the market. They're not buying back privately from people. They're buying in the market. So if we wonder how the Dow Jones is probably going to get to 45,000, how the S&P is going to get somewhere around 6,300 based on this pace, it's because we have government money going into the system through the Plunge Protection Act, and we have major, large corporations spending a ton of their own cash buying their own stock back. There are plenty of theories behind that, and I really can't get into them because I'm on YouTube. Every time I get into a theory of something, I seem to get suspended. So I will be a little toned down for a week. I don't plan on being on here forever. I just need to get Rumble figured out and how to use that the right way because it's glitchy. But normally looking at this type of stuff, there's always corporate buybacks. They're always happening in the marketplace, but it usually coincides with a new issuance of stock. So they're washing one hand with the other. Right now, we're in an environment right now where they're not issuing new stock. They're just buying it back. This is what's feeding the market. This is what's driving this pricing up. The S&P 500, which is where you should really look in the stock market, 37% of the total market cap of the S&P 500 rests in 10 companies. NVIDIA, even though after a small drop, NVIDIA is still, the market cap of NVIDIA is still 10.9% of the American GDP. These are monopolies. These are massive, huge companies that can basically play with the market, play with your money, rig a system, and make themselves profitable at any given time. But I think this time is coming to an end because the FTC has finally issued an actual court case for Meta on the antitrust violations that are occurring. Most people have no idea what an antitrust violation is. This is a law that was passed, antitrust law, to break up large oil companies. In the beginning, Standard Oil was really the historical marker. They basically said when one company gets too big, it gets rid of competition. And when there's no competition, there's no free market. And without a free market, you don't have a free country. Well, America has already been in a monopolistic antitrust violation for the better part of 3.5 decades. I can't remember the last time that politicians even talked about monopolies. Google is an absolute monopoly. Microsoft is a monopoly. The media companies themselves are monopolies. And these monopolies continue to acquire all the companies that rise in usage, in customers, and in revenue. So we have done nothing on this side. Nobody in Washington, no Republican, no Democrat, they have done absolutely nothing in Washington, D.C. to stop us from getting into a fascist state. Now, fascism is something that most people actually don't understand historically, but most people actually understand fascism as corporations running a government. And that is absolutely true, especially when you look at even the current cabinet appointees by Trump and many of the large positions. Right now, I don't know if most people know this, that as soon as Biden got into office, he appointed the CEO of Monsanto to run the Food and Drug Administration. What does that mean? Well, Monsanto makes chemicals, and these chemicals have killed people. They've lost billions and billions of dollars in class action lawsuits. And now that guy is the head of the Food and Drug Administration. This is what fascism, crony capitalism, communism, fascism leads to communism. It always does. Government control will ultimately end up controlling these entities, as you're seeing through the Twitter files and all the stuff that Elon has brought out. Matt Taibbi doing a great job with that. Michael Schellenberger, got a chance to meet him in Memphis. Great guy. All these guys are bringing to light the fact that, yes, the governments, the corporations do have a massive amount of lobbying power in D.C. They have all the money in the world, and they get away with literally murder on a daily basis. But the real problem is that most people think that's fascism. We live in socialism because at the end of the day, the Twitter files have shown that these massive corporations get large contracts from the government to keep quiet, and the government can actually send them emails, which is not a conspiracy theory. This has been shown in the Twitter files, where the governments actually control these large corporations. So I know people are quick to say we're in fascism. The reality is we're in socialism. 52.14% of all market transactions, all transactions in this country, of all GDP movement, is directly linked to government spending. That is socialism. So if you're worried about whether or not we'll fall into socialism, you're a little bit late to the game. We're already there. But the FTC, for the first time in a long time, is actually going through an antitrust lawsuit with Meta, which will definitely take years. Like, this will not happen tomorrow. This will definitely take 5, 7, maybe even 10 years to resolve. But I'm happy to see that movement going in the right direction. Now, we're also seeing Janet Yellen, Satan's accountant who's been on the throne of the money supply of America for 4 years. She is stepping down, and her replacement coming in, Bassett, I don't know if he'll be any different. I will say this before I get into cabinet members. I am concerned about the cabinet picks, but I'm not concerned about Donald Trump. I am concerned that these people have some notorious backgrounds. Bassett has taken money from Soros. He actually paid Soros out. He's taken money from Clinton. He paid them out. I don't agree with his lifestyle. That's not my choice to make. That's his choice to make. Guy definitely has financial background, and I definitely trust that Donald Trump knows what he's doing, especially considering that probably at least 90% of these appointees are truly Israel first people. And that's a different topic for a different time. Now that I'm back on YouTube, I've got a great interview with Mike Sullivan that I'm going to release probably over the weekend. I don't want to shock too many of you before Thanksgiving with it. Some of the information, I'll release that over the weekend. I've had it for about 2.5 weeks, talking about American Zionism and things like that. We do have a lot of Zionists in control. The trade-off is, it doesn't matter if they're Zionist or they have backgrounds you don't agree with and all this other stuff. They're still better than Janet Yellen, okay? Let's just be honest. They're still better than what we have. No matter who Trump appoints right now, you could appoint the empty glass of water next to me. It's going to be better than the people who are in office right now. And I'm choosing to take that stance. I'm choosing to be pleasantly surprised along the way because Donald Trump has provided many pleasant surprises in his tenure as president. And I think that we should give him a chance. He's not even in office yet, okay? He's just won an election. Now, Yellen leaving, the interesting thing about this is that right now what I'm seeing, right, this exuberance in America where we're all ecstatic. We just won an election. We really haven't won anything yet. For me, it is creating a tremendous amount of caution when I get into prayer, when I get into meditation, a lot of caution. Financially, I think you can see that just with the simple breakdown that I've given you right now. But I think that the caution stems from it's been too easy. It's been too quiet, right? We really haven't seen the left protest, attack, nothing. We've expected that. So I just have this aching feeling that we're going to be seeing stuff in the future that isn't as copacetic as we see today. And I won't make too much of a guess on that. I'll leave that up to you. I feel that coming. With Yellen leaving, she's leaving landmines. I don't know if you really understand, and most people don't really understand finance. She's taking on a tremendous amount of debt at the end of her tenure. She's having a difficulty selling bonds. She's leaving this debt for the next Treasury director or head of the Treasury. And this is not just Yellen. This is happening everywhere. You're watching Blinken starting world wars. They are really putting together a strong landmine field that Trump's going to have to navigate in his first quarter, maybe first year. And of course, we know he's strong enough to do it, and he'll focus in on that. He's a proven entity. We don't have to guess if that's the case. We know that's going to be the case. We know this guy won't sleep until the problems are solved. But Yellen by herself is leaving massive landmines in the Treasury for Bassett, and I'll go into those in the next episode. I wasn't prepared to do that because I didn't know if they'd allow me to live stream tonight, so I'm pretty happy that happened. One of the cool things, there's a great video going around, I think it was PBD that talked about it, is the fact that RFK in the position that he's in will have complete oversight on budgetary spending of $1.5 trillion a year towards our health. And our health is something that is very little talked about in America. In fact, when I tell people the products that we have here have anywhere between 5 and 50 different ingredients that are banned in other countries, and it's common snacks here in America. Most of our snacks that we eat here are completely different than the products that are sold by the same brand overseas. And of course, there's a nefarious purpose behind that, driven by big pharma. We don't need to concern ourselves with that in this episode. We all know that that's there. But I want to go on the positive side because it's very easy, and social media loves to grind people for things they've done in the past, like the Surgeon General coming in. Yes, in 2020, she was all about masks and lockdowns. So were 94% of the people you know. 94% of the people you know were terrified and had no idea what was happening, and they were telling you to wear a mask and stay 6 feet apart, and eventually they told you to get a jab. No different. Now in 2022 and 2023, her tone changed. I think if we look at the entire tenure of someone's career and really look at it as though it was ourselves, if we start judging people the way that we would like to be judged, I think we'll be a lot happier with some of these picks. But that's not for me to decide. You're going to do what you want to do. I just try to look at the entire picture, and I don't have much time to dig through this stuff with what's going on at work right now, which is great stuff. But it's really important that you judge people the way you would like to be judged. Look at read the entire book, not just the first few chapters. Read it till the end and see what you think. Because I think a lot of these picks are people just like you and I. Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Elon, Vivek. These were all Democrats. These were all people who were on the other side of the fence, who had a coming to Jesus moment or just a reality of truth. I've been talking about this on Telegram literally since 2021. that we are living in times that are very similar to many stories will come out like Saul of Tarsus. Saul was a Pharisee. He hated Christians. In fact, his living was made killing and slaughtering Christians. And then Jesus intervened, he changed his life, and he basically wrote most of the entire New Testament. This is not a biblical-only stance. This happens in all people around the world. People do change their mind. You have done stupid things that you don't want the world to know about. So have I. And thankfully, most of us grew up without cell phones. Can you imagine? But most of us have done things in our past. Pete Hegseth. I thought, the only problem I have with most of these picks is their dedication to the destruction of America at the appeasement of Israel. And I'll definitely get into that later. They will kick me off for that in the end. I've already gotten, many comments on my company's public contact form about my opinions on this matter. So they're already angry at me, which means I'm touching the right chord. But I will say this, like guys like Pete Hegseth, at least he actually served in wartime. When was the last time we had somebody who was Secretary of Defense that actually served in war, took gunshots, stormed and kicked down doors? When was the last time we had somebody who actually understood what it was like for our basic normal infantry to fight in a war? I think it's a great thing. Of course, he's a handsome guy who's been on Fox. He's had sexual escapades in his life. That's his problem. Does that mean he can't do his job? I don't know. I'm just done judging people that I don't know. I think that we should all get off of our high horse and start judging ourselves in our own life and really kind of trust in the system. Trump is doing one of three things. Trump is either a global Zionist and he is appointing global Zionists and it's the destruction of America. Or Trump is playing poker and he is putting people out there, and this is what I think. I think Trump is actually crowdsourcing his picks. He's announcing them very early. He did it very late in his first term. But you have the right to disagree. That's the beautiful part about America and people who appreciate free speech. You have every right in the world, if you hate a pick, to go online and say, I hate this pick and here's why, and we shouldn't trust this person and here's why. And that's awesome. That's helped all of us get a better understanding of the world around us. It really has. But if you let it affect your life and affect your Thanksgiving dinner because of who he picked 2.5 months before he's in office, you're probably spinning your wheels a little bit. You focus a little bit more on you. But at the same time, there could be a third option that Trump's doing where he's putting together a cabinet of people that he thinks can do a good job that ultimately may not be able to, that are very replaceable. He is a businessman. From time to time, business people find somebody at a cheaper salary that can do parts of a job that they need that are easily fireable when they find a new person. As a businessman, this is a very common tactic. Say I have a CFO position for $300,000. And I'm looking for a CFO, but I need somebody who can do the basic accounting and run the numbers. I'm going to find a comptroller or somebody else for $180,000, call him my CFO while I'm still looking, and eventually when I find the perfect CFO, I'm going to fire that guy and pay the new guy the $300,000. I'm going to save a little bit of money, get the things done that I need to get done in the beginning, and then I'm going to replace them with somebody who's better. This is a very common business practice. So again, one of three things, take it for what it's worth. There's definitely the doom and gloom. Trump's a globalist. He lied to us all. Maybe. Then there's the other side where he's crowdsourcing. He's saying, here's my pick. You got to understand, I talked to somebody who knows these people the other day, and a lot of these things have to do with favors that were done years ago. Politics hasn't changed. It's probably never will. Politics is politics has been this way since the Roman Empire. So of course there were favors that were done in campaigns and people get rewarded for things like that. But you got to remember these appointed positions, you can terminate them. The one person you can't terminate that no one seems to talk about is Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve. I just talked about this on Ann Vandersteel's show the other day. It was a great topic. He basically said, if Trump fires you, will you leave? He said no. The Federal Reserve has refused FOIA requests for years. FOIA requests. These are public mandates. They are not part of this country. Everyone in the government can be fired pretty much unless they were elected in. So it's very difficult to fire an elected official. Very easy to fire a bureaucrat. So bureaucrats are bureaucrats. You're going to replace them. I personally think Trump is either crowdsourcing his choices, or I think he's putting in a straw man that can be easily fired when you find somebody better who's willing to take the job. You got to remember, these people are going to go through tremendous turmoil. They're going to, every part of their background is being ripped apart right now. Their families are being disturbed. They're getting bombarded with tweets from you guys, accusing them of things. These are difficult public positions, and I think you give a little grace in that area. And the grace in the area of the Federal Reserve is one that we shouldn't, because that's our ultimate enemy, and no one seems to care. Right now, the money is moving. Retail traders think the market's going up forever. Right now, Americans have more money in the stock market than they've ever had before. It's 51% of all people's wealth is now in the stock market. The times are booming. Trump won. We are in danger. And the Federal Reserve, I bring this up because the Federal Reserve is not an elected official. They are not an appointed bureaucrat. They are a private company who owns each and every one of us like cattle. That's the truth. And the Federal Reserve is doing something very crazy. So normally I try to stick with facts, especially in the money section of this, but I am going to go into rumor right now. So I will preface this by saying that this is just rumor. This is not a point of proof. This is a point of conjecture. In my life, I have heard from 3 people, 2 of whom I've known for a long time. One I've known for a short period of time, but I work with very closely, that banks are getting ready to make a significant move, or what I've heard, third person, so not directly, so third person, is that certain bankers, one banker in particular, I'll give you the model, I won't give names. A friend of mine went to a bank. She goes there all the time. She loves to bank in person, as do I. I like to know my bank tellers. And she went to the bank teller. The bank teller looked nervous. She said, "Hey, what's wrong?" He said, "Nah, nothing. Don't worry about it." Called her after work and basically said, "I'm going to be leaving this branch. We're shutting down this branch for this specific bank. We're going to be moving to a new location where we'll still have some operations there, but this bank branch is closing. And there is something new coming in February." And he said something centralized. So I want to pose this theory. I'm going to say this is not fact. This is conjecture. This is definitely theory. This is the third person that I've heard say that a financial reset, a banking reset, is coming in February or March. Again, this is just conjecture. This is just 2 people talking in a room. Absolutely no proof behind this, except for word of mouth. Now, what I think may be happening is I think we may be watching these landmines being set for Trump, and he's looking for loyalists to get through a very difficult time. Sometimes loyalty is built through demand or through disaster, right? If you've been through the fire with someone once, you know you can go through the fire. And I know that there's many videos of Trump saying, "I'd like to lose it all one day to see who's loyal to me." I think that he knows who's loyal to him personally. And I think that right now we are entering into a landmine scenario where we could be, and this is just theory, this is not fact. I think that we could be into a situation where in mid to late January, we could see a stock market collapse. There was a hedge fund manager on CNBC today who specifically said, "We are currently preparing and this is a major hedge fund manager, "we are preparing our clients for 1929. That was the beginning of the Great Depression. And it would take something like that. It would take a massive banking disaster. It could be bank runs, bank closures, whatever it may be. You need that financial crash to be able to install a new system. Now, I know that there are theorists who can't wait for the dollar to collapse, who believe that Trump has this massive economic system put in place and it'll be all ready by February, bureaucratically, systematically, and procedurally. Maybe. That's an extremely difficult thing. I don't want to negate any theory because I don't know. But when I start hearing these things from people I've known for years, who are serious financial people or serious media people, I take them to heart. Not that I take them as fact or as gospel, but I take them to heart. So if I had to pose a theory, here would be my theory. I think that what's happening right now is this past administration, right? And I know there's the people who say Trump's still in charge, and behind the scenes he very well may be. I don't know, but from up front, and who signs the checks for this country and things like that, it's clearly a dichotomy of realities. We are certainly living in multiple timelines at the same time. Now, what would make sense to me is that when FedNow was put into place, people don't know, if you don't know what FedNow is, if you ask the government, FedNow is a faster, cheaper payment system for banks to be able to make transactions on the weekends. Cool. What FedNow actually is, the actual statute behind it, allows complete surveillance of your banking accounts. Complete and entire surveillance of all banking. So all 3-letter agencies right now have full access to your checking, savings, brokerage account. They have everything. That is the wiring system for CBDCs. So what I think theoretically could be happening is that the administration right now is not tucking their tail between their legs and walking away. I think that they are setting the final pieces of financial landmines designed to crash the market and implement CBDCs. Now, I have said this on Telegram since 2021. I have said that the Great Awakening and the Great Reset, that they're going to look exactly the same until one person emerges from the ashes. I've also said that I think we will enter the Great Reset for a short period of time and be pulled out of it. So I don't know what that means. I don't know why I'm rambling on about this because it's totally conjecture and theory, but it is fascinating to me to see this type of feedback from people on a constant basis, which is why I talk about Bitcoin, crypto, things like that. Bitcoin is in its own position right now. Multiple states, I know Dennis Porter, I've talked to him. Multiple states are actually meeting with him. We watched him present live to the state of Texas for a Bitcoin strategic reserve. The government, obviously, Senator Lummis has been proposing that. She's actually proposing we sell gold to buy Bitcoin, which would be cool. I don't see the point in it. We have a money printer and we have plenty of cash. We don't need to sell our gold. At the same time, Brazil just filed their own statute for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and Russia is continually talking with the other BRICS nations about using Bitcoin for oil sales around the world. I think Bitcoin is going to fit into the system as a very large purchasing agent. I don't see Bitcoin being the money you use for coffee. I don't see that being the case. I see it being used as a store and transfer of capital around the world for banks, nation states, wealthy people, normal people. Different topic. I went through all that on Ann's show. You can definitely watch that. I try to stay focused on the economy, not focused in on one product here. But my final point here, 2 points on finances before we get into the rest of the stuff, is number one, congratulations. While all of you were paying, again, I just went and bought 2 bags of groceries for $176. The media and the government is telling us that this Thanksgiving is going to be cheaper than it was in 2021, that it's only going to cost you $58 to get a turkey, stuffing, green beans, cranberry sauce, all that stuff's going to cost you only $58 for 10 people. Now, I don't know where they shop, but it's certainly not in reality. I shop at the storefront of reality. It's much more expensive. So while they're lying to you about how cheap Thanksgiving is going to be, they gave a $6 billion bailout to Rivian. And when I say Rivian, many of you go, what's Rivian? Exactly the point. Rivian is a California electric vehicle company whose cars are terrible. They've bought expensive showrooms in places like Dallas and Beverly Hills. These are, in my opinion, these are really ugly cars. And in fact, every person that I don't know anyone who drives a Rivian pickup truck, an electric pickup truck in Texas, but I do know that the other Texans I spend time with, when we see one, they all laugh. So this is a failing electric vehicle company. We know the EV market is on the way out. It's not going to be forced upon you. They simply can't scale it. But while your business is failing, because I know some of you run your own businesses, while your business is struggling, while your family is struggling, an EV company that no one has really ever heard of, who makes terrible, ugly cars that are they look like a futuristic night out at the Blue Oyster Bar in Police Academy. And if you're a child of the 80s, you'll know what that is. But these are not masculine looking vehicles. And this company has ruined its balance sheet time and time again. They just got $6 billion from the United States government. So congratulations. As slaves, we should all shut up and just realize that Thanksgiving is cheaper this year, even though it's not. It is. Don't say anything. Don't ever say anything. Don't ever question the entire narrative. And that companies that don't make really much revenue at all because no one wants their products, they got $6 billion. Take a look. I'm going to give you guys a homework project. Look at the shareholder list and the owners of Rivian. What you're going to find is a tremendous amount of congressmen and senators and bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., who own big chunks of Rivian, who are probably being bought out on their way out of this administration. The amount of corruption that has occurred since the election is unparalleled. The amount of corruption that's going to continue until January 20th is going to be unmatched in human history. And it began with Rivian today. Rivian is a pure play, crony capital, terrible company that provides a horrible product that's terrible for the environment, actually. The production of an EV battery is one of the most time and resource intensive processes in the world. And they're producing these things that will ultimately end up in a car graveyard, polluting the soil so we can't grow food. That is what's happening right now. They are getting huge bailouts, getting huge buybacks, getting out of the system before they have to leave office, before Trump comes in. So that's my final topic on finance tonight. Another one that kind of correlates. Earlier today, a boat ran into a large oil rig in the North Sea, causing 50 crew members to be boated off, and we don't know if anyone has died as of yet. Trump has already announced that if Mexico and Canada do not close the borders, that he will implement a 25% tariff, additional tariff on top of their goods and services. These countries are completely dependent upon the American economy, completely. And our consumerism is very much dependent upon them. So you're watching the left-wing media going nuts. This 25% tariff on listen, close the border, do your job, and you don't have to worry about it. Both of you, because we don't hear anything about what's happening on the northern border. And I'm starting to get whispers from people that there are some real dangerous people coming in from the northern border. There always have been. It's very easy to get through Canada. So these are problems that are easily solved. What you're going to watch in the next 30 to 60 days is the actual definition of what a tariff is truly used for. It's called leverage. It's leverage in negotiation. You want your border closed? Impose a 25% tariff. The tariff is just a threat. If you close the border, there's no tariff. You can do business just like normal. These tariffs will be used in the right way, in my opinion, by the Trump administration to set things right. It's just like threatening your child, take away their allowance, take away their car. It's the same kind of thing. We are daddy. The United States is the daddy of the world, and we need to use daddy powers. And Daddy Trump is using daddy powers before he even got into office, which is amazing. Walmart and Target are fully walking away from DEI policies. This is the best thing I've heard in a very long time, because I will not shop at either one of them, because I don't like walking into rainbow-filled sections that show me that children, that little boys should be little girls, not could be, but should be, and that we should all explore our inner self and follow our heart. I'm so tired of seeing that stuff, and it's really good to see Walmart and Target. Now, don't warm up to Walmart and Target. They are not doing this because they believe in it. They're doing this because we protested and stopped spending money there. This is all about money. Corporation. I'm going to read it. I talk about this all the time. There is one fiduciary obligation of a CEO of a company in America, which is a big problem, and that is shareholder value, period. That's the only, a CEO can do whatever they want. The only thing they can really be fired for is not producing shareholder value or sued for. So if I'm the CEO of Walmart or Target, I'm going to look at the millions and millions of patriots in this country that will no longer shop there, and I'm going to conform to their wishes because I need to sell products to them. So while it's a great thing, it's also a gray area, and don't get too excited about it. Target hasn't changed. Same people run it. You're looking at Jaguar coming out with their new transgender campaigns. This ridiculous is not over. Nothing has ended except for the election. The battle will just begin in January of 2025, and I believe it will begin financially, and I believe it will move into many different sectors of society throughout that time. So going to that, it's important to note that right now NATO, the UK, and France are preparing to send troops to the Ukraine if the United States does not provide more support. I want to remind all of you that we are living in a recreation of World War II. In World War II, Adolf Hitler sent 20 documented, possibly 24 undocumented, letters to the Allied nations asking for peace. All were ignored. Vladimir Putin has sent 6 suggestions or offers of peace since the Ukraine debacle began in 2022, all of which have been declined by the United States. We do control all of Ukraine. It is completely run there, but the purpose of Ukraine is not to have a war. The purpose of Ukraine is money. All the money we send over to Ukraine makes Western venture capitalists and hedge fund managers more money than you will ever see in your entire life. Here's the way it works. I talked about this in an old episode. Say you have a utility company in the Ukraine. This is a government-owned utility company. They're in war, so they need to raise money to keep electricity up. So what they do is they issue, I don't know, $100 million in bonds to Western U.S. hedge fund and venture fund managers. They buy up the debt at like 12, 15%. That company pays it for a couple of months, and then a few bombs get dropped, and then America sends $6 billion, and then they pay off that bond plus 20% interest. This is a money laundering operation for Wall Street. It's also a land grab in many different ways. I'll get into that in another episode. The land grab, there's a very clear migrational path of who's going to replace the dead people in Ukraine. It's very obvious. And then, of course, you have the destruction of Ukraine. Somebody has to rebuild Ukraine. BlackRock already has contracts. Vanguard already has contracts. More destruction equals more product and more profit. But we are approaching that point where now nations, NATO, UK, and France are now demanding that we send more effort. Otherwise, they're going to send more troops. We are looking at, by the way, before I get into this, Donald Trump is a free man. He's a free man. So all you people on all of my YouTube shorts that said that I'm some right-wing propagandist telling you that he was going to have his appeal overturn these lawsuits, I am not. Donald Trump, in mid-December, Donald Trump will have 0 charges against him. He will be completely exonerated of all these fake lawsuits, these fake cases. He will be, by the end of the year, no longer considered a convicted felon. That was all malarkey that you fell for. It was all BS. And now Donald Trump's name is completely cleared, and Jack Smith is the one who really needs to watch his back from here on out. If I was Jack Smith, I would take a very long vacation in a very deserted place for a very long time. Sidebar. Now, in America, we have these big problems. So I talked a little bit about gold. Gold prices actually moved down the last couple of days, and the reason's pretty simple. Gold is value when there's blood. It has a lot of value when there's blood in the street. Now, Israel and Hezbollah had a verbal ceasefire 2 days ago. That did not stop Israel from bombing Lebanon. They have been bombing Lebanon nonstop through their quote-unquote ceasefire. Now, there has been an officially brokered ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel, and we'll find out tomorrow morning whether or not Israel follows suit with that. I don't think they will. They might for a few days. But I think that we're going to continue to see destruction in that region. But the ceasefire dropped prices of gold. So watch all these big central banks and gold companies out there. They will take advantage of these dips and they will purchase it. They will take advantage of dips in everything from Bitcoin to gold. They will take advantage of it. But we may not see that. And I'm not so concerned with that. I'm more concerned with the fact that our government is now promoting that we should be sending nuclear weapons to the most corrupt nation in the world. Ukraine has not been able to get into NATO its entire existence because of its level of corruption at the government level. Now we are talking about sending them nuclear warheads to fend off the Russians, who have now used an ICBM, short-range ICBM, without a nuclear warhead. The missiles they are sending as retaliation into Ukraine. So here's what's happening. The UK, France, and America have sent weapons to the Ukraine. They are using those weapons, American weapons, to fire long-range missiles into Russia. Russia said that they will respond with that aggression with nuclear capabilities. So recently, they shot an ICBM into Ukraine, which these things move at hyperspeed. They can get around the globe in a matter of under an hour, well under an hour in some of those cases, but it was not nuclear armed. This is a message to them saying, one more chance. I'm giving you one more chance. So the more we continue to push this button, we have landmines in the financial market, we have landmines in the court system, we have landmines, absolutely real landmines in war. And now this war is escalating, and it seems like this administration on its way out is going to do everything they can to have Donald Trump sit January 20th in a throne of chaos. And that's fine. It's going to be what it is. There's nothing we can do to stop it. My major concern during this time frame is obviously the border and North Carolina, taking care of those who are forgotten. I want to remind all of you that 2 months ago, North Carolina was wiped out by a major hurricane that makes absolutely no sense that a Category 4 or 5 hurricane would land 400 miles inland from the ocean in North Carolina, wiping out a very large region of the world that controls a lot of lithium that you need for electric batteries, as well as quartz, which is used in many industrial areas. These people, many of them, still do not have homes. They're living in tents. The weather this week is going to be 38 degrees some days, and these people literally don't have homes. And because they don't have homes, the governments right now are taking their children through CPS, and they have no idea where their children are going. I know dozens and dozens of people who've gone there to volunteer. I plan on doing it too as soon as I can. And I've done as much as I can to send capital, to send money, food, anything that I can, referring people over. Never forget those people. Never forget what the government did to Western North Carolina. The things that are happening there are an absolute tragedy. They gave $6 billion to an EV company today who's been failing its entire existence. And yet there are people in our own country who can't eat. Along with this, just south of North Carolina, you have South Carolina, where an entire police department in McCall, South Carolina, resigned in one day. They have no police department in McCall, South Carolina. The city of Oakland is doing cost-cutting measures because all of their crony capitals seem to steal the money from the educational system. Oakland is one of the least educated cities in this country, and all of the public officials drive great cars. In fact, one of them is a direct associate of Gavin Newsom, who is the governor of California, who just bought a $9.1 million home on a public servant's salary. Oakland is now cutting 70 more police officers. We have places like New Orleans that are down to 900 police officers for a major city in this country. We are entering into a world that we do not understand. I know that there's exuberance and there's so much joy in the air from the mere fact that we won an election when everyone thought we would lose. And that's awesome. Like, I love that. I still remember in junior college, we won our super regional. We were qualified for the World Series. My team was going crazy. And the first thing I said was, we have 3 more games to win. Folks, we have 3 more games to win. We won an election. We have a market that's failing, an economy that's failing, a society that's failing. The Supreme Court is actually going to hear a case on what the definition of a woman is. Our taxpayer dollars at the Supreme Court level are going to hear a case defining what a woman is, okay? We have police departments that are quitting. We have a wide open border. Now, they are turning back after the tariffs, yes, but in the last 2 days in Texas, they have found multiple caravans of 250 to 350 people. 60 to 80 of those are unaccounted for and unaccompanied minors that are holding up, hey, I have to go to this phone number. We don't know who that phone number is. There's 350,000 missing children from that border that are absolutely, if they're still alive, that are absolutely being used in nefarious ways for demonic purposes. We have an entire leftist society. We have people shaving their head because someone won an election. Thankfully, they're not having sex with people. I think the biggest victory in this entire process has been some of the liberal meltdowns, which are sad, by the way. They're extremely sad. They are entertaining. I am a human being. They're horrible. I feel terrible for these tortured souls, but their reactions. We have a very immature country. They cry, they scream on camera, they're shaving their heads, they're going celibate, thankfully, so they don't multiply. But we have a lot of problems in this country that aren't going to be solved by an election. They're going to be solved by us. They're going to be solved by the normal people of this country getting back to common sense and based morals. You know, one of the best things that's happened over the course of this past, it's been 5 years now, 4 years now. One of the greatest things that I've seen is the amount of people I've seen with my own eyes get baptized. You know, faith is overwhelming people right now. When things get really bad, and I'm watching people move away from faith as things get, oh, Trump won, everything will be great. If someone online is telling you, Trump's in the first couple of months, all the problems of the world are going to be solved, stop listening to that person. It's logistically not possible. There is assistance on the way. We are going to see a wave of AI flood this country in the next 12 to 18 months. Next episode, I'm going to talk about some of the employment issues that we're seeing from AI, what AI is, what AI isn't, the institutional and agricultural uses. I think people are really overlooking that. Medical uses, things like that. But right now, we have not heard anything from the Trump administration about what they're going to do to cut spending. We haven't heard anything. All we keep hearing about is crypto stuff, which means something. But we're not hearing that. We're hearing Doge, right? 2 non-government officials that work for free that are putting together a strategy to say, I love the Doge idea with Vivek and Elon. I think it's a great idea. I actually like it even more that they invited in Ron Paul, who should be the head of the Treasury. But we have not heard any of the measures that are going to take. What we've heard are a bunch of political words, language. We don't know what's going to come yet, but we do know that there are more problems than we have solutions for right now. That's one thing that we know for sure. And if we're relying on the government, we're relying on Elon Musk to solve our problems at the government level, here's what's going to happen. They're going to strip away 80% of the people who work here. It's not a bad thing. Replace them with AI and embed a surveillance system. We're already living in a surveillance state. They're watching us right now. I'm volunteering that they can see in this room, but if not, they could see in this room through this camera anyway, even if it wasn't turned on. There's a lot of things that we have to go through, guys. And we're watching AI get used in horrible ways. There's churches that have an AI Jesus for people to confess to. This is blasphemy at the highest level, by the way. But it's a horrible depiction of where society is. But the good news about it is that there are actually people going to this AI Jesus. They are seeking Jesus, even if he's a fake AI version. You know, these are the times for us to be able to buckle down, get our houses in order, get our money together, get our family together, get our faith together, get our body in shape. You know, it's getting cold out here. I miss having the sun on my face from the summer. But these are the months that we need to buckle down. There are definitely going to be really, really strange things that happen in the future. And they're going to be uncontrollable. They're going to be things we don't understand. And the best thing that we can do right now is thank God for the blessings that we have, thank God for the families that we have, and thank God for the time that we have on earth to get a deeper understanding of the area around us, the world around us, and make it a little better day by day. So I'm looking at my screen right now, and it looks like my chat is somewhat disconnected on YouTube, so they might not have liked what I just said there. But while we have this valuable time together, I'm going to cut it short here tonight. Next episode, I'm going to get into AI, employment, some of the things that I'm seeing there. I'm also going to get into some of the religious things that I'm seeing. Artifacts are being found all around the world proving the life of Jesus Christ. There are artifacts proving, they found parts of the ark. We have found chariots. We have found swords in the Red Sea. So many amazing things out there that'll fill your spirit, fill your cup. But until next time, do it with your family. Spend as much time with your family this next week as you possibly can. These are gifts from God. Take this time, this Thanksgiving, to be truly thankful that you live in an amazing nation like this that's turning the corner, because it's definitely going to turn the corner eventually. It's not going to be overnight. It's not going to be simple, but it's certainly going to happen. So until next time, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless this country. My name is Eric Rice. This is The Rice Report, and we'll see you the next time. Have a good night, everyone.